I'll give you an example about the disconnect. You had the Western media running with decapitated babies and gang rape and whatever, and even the Israeli media refuted these allegations. There were no decapitated babies, all gang rape, all of that. The story about like cutting people's out of their babies out of their wombs, all of that was refuted. And they talk openly about the Zaka and the Hezbollah United, how they squandered people for millions of dollars and for these lies. That was repeated by Secretary Anthony Blinken. That didn't happen. I mean, the Anthony Blinken death testimony in front of Congress. Do you remember? It's like the father has his eyes gouged, the mother had his breast chopped off, she was raped, the little girl had her limb amputated, and the other kid was having his finger amputated, and then they did all of that, and they sat down having dinner, having breakfast, and laughing. I said, where's the IDF? Where are the planes that were hitting the kibbutz? Where are we stupid? Are we fucking stupid? You expect to say this story in front of Congress? And the IDF will proudly brag about like a response time of 3 minutes. Where's their F-16s and the Apaches and their tanks that were actively shooting? They're just like sitting there having breakfast after like comfortably owning all of this, including cutting off someone's limbs and raping another one. What kind of this? Jake Tapper on CNN, he went and he said, he went with every single sob story, allegation of rape, allegation of decapitated babies. He went with every single one of them. And he did not refute any one of them. None of these Western media outlets even bothered to translate the Israeli media. And I said, like me, an Arab, a Middle Eastern, I'm using Israeli media to prove my point. You see how stupid this is? See how crazy this is? None of them. It's just like, guys, we messed up. We went too hot with this. We apologize because these stories were used in order to make people accept the killing of so many Palestinians. We are part of this. We are sorry. None of them did it. And I even say, like, Jake Tapper, like he's a great journalist. I don't mean to say that he sucks, but he does. But like Jake Tapper, he has a great news show on CNN called United Scandals of America. And I think he should include his own coverage in that show because that's a scandal that he did. So yeah, that is the Western media. Such a disappointment.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder, I'm not going to obviously ask you for like how do we bring peace to the Middle East, because I think
that's not my problem.
Yeah,
you guys messed it up. You don't come to a comedian after 75 years and tell me like,
perhaps,
I don't care.
Yeah,
you guys mess up. I don't have any solutions, but what I can tell you is whatever is happening in the media right now is ridiculous, and it's stupid, and it has to stop, and it's an insult to everybody's intelligence.
Do you think then? Okay, so do you think it's as simple as this, that there's a problem with it, like general intelligence? You keep saying stupid, right? Is it just that the people who work in the industry aren't smart enough to realize
No, they're smart. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what Israel is doing is wrong, and they're covering for it. Why? I don't know. I'm not gonna give any. I have no idea. But what is happening right now, and this like scandalous the coverage of the news, violates every single lesson that they gave us about the news and about transparency. When you have the New York Times being the mouthpiece, remember 2003, where the New York Times were the mouthpiece of the Bush administration about the WMDs, where we never found.
We had the same here in the UK. Yeah.
And I said, like, you know what? Fine. I'm an Arab. I'm used having a news publication being the mouthpiece of a president. It's like, it's nostalgic. I understand that. I understand that. But 20 years later, the New York Times become the mouthpiece of a foreign government of Israel. Like, they actually, like, they push all of these, like, crazy stories. They just repeat their rape allegations, like, give the story for, like, an Israeli IDF spokesman and her nephew. And they have all of these, like, alleged non-verified stories. And when even the Daily, which is the New York Times podcast, even when they pulled back, they doubled down, and they did what Nixon did when the New York Times exposed him before about like the stuff that was okay. There's a story. There's a context here. So New York Times, beginning of 1970s, they published a piece about Nixon using lies to justify the Vietnam War. So Nixon went crazy, and he launched an investigation to know who leaked it, and that led to Watergate. And then when that happened in the Daily, the New York Times, instead of actually apologizing for the lies, they said they launched an internal investigation to see who leaked the facts about how this was a botched story. You understand how it is? So I can accept as a Middle Eastern you being the mouthpiece of a president, but you being a mouthpiece of a client state, a state that we fund from our own taxpayers' money, that's an insult. That is just like a very low way to drop, to descend. And
Yeah.
Yeah, the New York Times, the beacon of Western media.
I'm conscious that we've spoken a lot about the media in this, which is fine. But I'm seeing on the one hand, right, okay, so we can't send our reporters into Gaza. They're being denied access, right? And on the other hand, we've got the information that's coming straight from the IDF. And anyone who knows anything, which these international reporters do, by the way, they understand war to a pretty serious extent. They understand that there's also an information war as well as a practical war, right? That who controls the airwaves, that's relevant. Who can put out information? It's useful, right? It's the reason why sort of the video cameras on the drones in Ukraine and Russia has been so useful, because you get to see all this video distributed on Telegram and on Twitter, and it can change people's opinions about a war, right? So if you understand that that's the fact, and the IDF are not letting you go into Gaza, surely you say, well, okay, we're not going to just reprint your news releases until you send us in there. We're not going to, the information you're giving us, we can't verify it. It's not true.
Yeah, or at least how about having a bit of common sense, like when the New York Times publishes like a hit piece, just like repeating the talking point of the IDF, saying there's actually about 450 miles of Hamas tunnels inside. 450 miles of tunnels? You know that the New York subway system, in the richest country of the world, in the richest state of America, is 400, it's 7 miles less than that. 7 miles less than that. You want me to believe that like in a small strip of land in Gaza, Hamas build that? I mean, you should hire those people to fix your infrastructure. Seriously. I mean, what kind of a feat that the Hamas people will have 450 miles of tunnels underneath Gaza? You don't need anything more than common sense to say that this is bullshit. You don't need reporters to report from inside to say this bullshit. You have Israel, which is like a regime that has been caught lying many times. Remember Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian American reporter that was killed? For a whole year they denied. It's like, oh, and then they even released doctored videos of Islamic Jihad killing it. And then it's like, oh, okay, it was us. Sorry. It's just, they lie. They lie consistently and they don't care. And if you catch them lying, it's like, well, we're defending ourselves.